Yo, what's going on, guys? So, I'm sure those of you, who've been watching me for a minute now, you're very familiar with my story. Those of you guys know that I used to deliver pizza, and I've never really gone like fully in depth of like how, I guess all of this kind of happened. Um, and that was probably one of the hardest years I've ever went through in my life. For those of you guys that don't know, 2023 summer, I'd just taken this huge leap of faith. I dropped out of college. I went all in on my goals. I started posting on social media, but all I had to show for my life as this 20-year-old was, I was in great shape. I had a great mindset. I worked hard, but all I had to show for my life was, I was this college dropout who was just delivering pizza, and that killed me for the longest time because I knew I was meant for more, right? Like I knew I had this above average mindset. I knew I wasn't like everyone else. I wasn't doing the same things as everyone else, but it was only a matter of time until my habits and my work ethic started to catch up to the results, right? So, for that whole year delivering pizza, it destroyed me. And like what this is all about is, how working as a pizza driver pushed me to the edge to stop waiting around till tomorrow because I genuinely I got to the point like I couldn't stand this. I couldn't stand this being my reality any longer. I needed to get out. I needed to make a change. There was going to be massive risk involved. But here's the thing, when you get to a position to where the pain of staying the same is far worse than the pain of changing, that's when you know you're in a powerful place. And that's exactly what I got to. And I was literally willing to do anything possible to get out of that situation. And that's exactly what I did. So if we kind of scroll down here, I have three key actions that I took, in order to build this business. And this is where a lot of people start, right? You get to this point to where, okay, you may not know exactly what business you want to go with. You may not know exactly what you want to do, but you have this realization that like, okay, you're meant for more. Like you don't want to work a normal 9 to 5. Maybe you don't want to go to college, whatever it may be. And you kind of have to reevaluate yourself in your whole life. And this is the three things that I had to that I had to do, the three steps I had to take to build this business. So first one, I had to redefine my identity and my beliefs. I had to redefine, okay, who am I? And who do I want to become? And what are my beliefs? Like I had to basically, you know, retell myself, things that I had been learning my whole life. Like, what are my identity, right? Like, who am I? I was this dude who was like super about personal development, super focused on the gym. I had this skill, I knew I was meant for more. I worked, I felt like I worked harder than everyone, right? Like, I had this above average mindset and I knew I didn't want college, right? As far as my beliefs, I didn't want college. I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I knew there were tons and tons of people making money online. I knew this stuff was possible. So I had to redefine not only my identity, but like the things I believed, right? Because I didn't believe that like going the normal traditional route and living your life like everyone else was going to get you, above average results. I just didn't see it. I saw how my parents grew up. I saw how my friends' parents, were and my friends around me and their mindsets. And I knew I didn't want that for my life. And number two, I had to audit, my habits and my environment. What did this look like? Okay, well, I had to completely change what I was doing every day, right? So like that's when life got really real for me when I first dropped out of college and I literally was like in the real world now. Like there was no plan B. I had nothing to fall back on now. It was either like I go all in and I try to make something work or I'm going to end up working a normal desk job or like have to become a police officer or something like that down the road, right? It's like I was all in. If I didn't make something work, I was screwed. So I had to change my habits every day. Like, what was I doing with my time? Was I actually doing things each and every single day that were going to move my life forward, push my life forward and get me going in the direction that I wanted with my future, right? And then as far as my environment, listen, I love my friends and I'm sure you guys do too. Like all my friends who I grew up with, they're great. But here's the thing, you know, my mindset and my goals didn't align with them, right? No, I'm not judging them by any means. I love my friends and they know that, and I don't put myself above them. But here's the thing, I wanted something different for my life. And when I looked at their life, It was just the normal, like they're in college, they're having fun, they're partying, and that's great for them. That's what they chose. But for me, I wanted something different, right? So I'm not going to surround myself with people who aren't going in the direction I want to go in. I'm not going to surround myself with people with these limiting beliefs and a different mindset and like, don't believe in what I'm doing, right? So that's the last thing I wanted to hear. When I just took this crazy risk on my life, the last thing I wanted to hear was people talking bad about what I was doing, telling me it's not going to work, telling me I'm stupid. All that's the last thing I wanted, right? So back to back summers, like I literally I isolated myself. This is why I talk about God so much because it was literally just me and God the whole way. That's all I had, and I had to distance myself from everyone. And through that process, that was ultimately God teaching me that I didn't need anyone else, right? Like the only thing that mattered was His validation, and as long as I had Him, I had everything I need. And I even have over there hanging up on my dresser or on my dresser. I wrote this back in 2023 that summer because this is when I was just starting getting closer to God. It's a post-it note on my dresser, and I still have it hanging there. It says, "If God is all you have, that is all you need." That was when I truly realized that God was all I needed, and I didn't need anyone else's validation or anyone else in my life. And I kind of got that comfort in being alone in that isolation, and I found comfort through God, and that's what really helped me. And the last one, obviously, take ownership and commit to the growth, right? So you have to take ownership of your own life. You have to realize that you are in the position you are in because of you, right? Because of the actions you choose every day and because of the things you're doing. It's like, if you're successful, that's completely your fault. But if you're not successful and you're not in a position you want to be, and maybe you're broke, or you don't have a good physique, or you don't take care of yourself, it's like, okay, that's also your fault. So taking ownership is like realizing where you're at and understanding that you are in that position because of you. Obviously there's things in life that, like, we can't control everything, right? But like for the most part, the decisions you make every day play a huge role on where you're at in life. So I do truly believe, like, yes, there's outside things that you can't control, but for the most part, you are in control of your own life. God gave us free will, and the actions you choose every day do ultimately result in where you're at in life. So it's taking a step back, looking yourself in the mirror, taking full ownership of your life, and being like, okay, if I want this outcome, what do I need to do to get there? Like, I need to take full accountability and make sure I'm doing everything possible to get this result I want. And then, you know, after that, obviously commit to the growth. Like, literally committing to the process each and every single day, regardless of, whether you're not seeing results, whether it's not working right away, or, you know, you're not, nothing's going through, nothing's going your way, whatever it may be. It's like committing to the growth is committing to the growth. Like, how long are you willing to work without seeing that immediate result, right? Like, without seeing, the progress right away. It's like, you have to be focused on the process. You cannot be outcome based, because I can promise you guys, like, if you just have this goal of like 10K a month in your mind, or maybe it's 20K a month, or whatever it may be, it's like, or maybe it's even buying a car. And I talk about this all over my Instagram and every video. You guys know that. It's like, when you get there, you're never going to be content with that. It's not, there's no like final destination. It's the same thing with your physique. It's like the day you get into the gym is the day you're never going to be satisfied. You may feel good about what you have, or you may feel good about how you look and confident and all that stuff, but like, you're never going to be content with where you're at. So it's like, instead of chasing that certain outcome that is not going to satisfy you, and it's not going to make you happy, it's like, when you can just learn to like fall in love with the process and like actually get your fulfillment from the work, that's when it's going to be most fulfilling. So if we kind of dive into this, um, as you guys can see right here, I have the picture. This was a picture actually my girlfriend Blake took. She was sitting in the car. This is like the only, this is one of my biggest regrets. I've never told you guys this, but this is literally um, the only thing I have from pretty much me delivering pizza, besides for like a stupid video of us sitting in the car. But this is like pretty much the only thing I have. Like, I remember I used to bring Blake along with me when I was delivering, and we just used to mess around, have fun. And she used to always take videos of me, like, bringing out the pizza to my car and stuff like that. And I used to get pissed at her, and I would always make her delete them because I was just so embarrassed at the moment. Like, I was so embarrassed of my identity of like being a pizza delivery driver, and I didn't want anyone else to see that, right? Like, I didn't want it to go anywhere. I didn't want anyone else to see that, and it genuinely pissed me off. I was so embarrassed that I was a pizza driver, and I made her delete everything. But little did I know, obviously now I could have used all of that documentation to show you guys. So it's one of my biggest regrets. That's the thing, wherever you're at in life, that's my advice to you. Like, document it. Even if you're not somewhere you want to be, you never know what you could use it for later on and how it could be valuable down the road. And that's one of my biggest regrets. So, like, this is genuinely like the only picture I have. She snuck this shit when I was walking up to the house to deliver. But yeah, you can see started here, and then obviously with the Corvette. Um, and again, you guys know I talk about this. That the car itself isn't going to make you happy. This car is cool, but to be completely honest, like, I'm so desensitized to it now. It's like it's a normal thing. Like, you guys may see me like being like, oh, like how can he ever be depressed or be upset? He gets to drive a Corvette to the gym every day, or drive his girlfriend in a Corvette to dinner and whatnot. It's like, bro, when you do it every day, like, you become desensitized to it, and like, this car doesn't give me that same fulfillment when I step in it, right? Like, it doesn't give me that same happiness I got on day one when I bought it. So it's like, this stuff can't be the end goal, because it's like you're never going to be content. It's like, you're going to realize that that car itself isn't going to make you happy. And then it's like you're just going to chase that next, bigger and better car. And it's like this never ending cycle. That is why, like, true happiness comes from God. And it's like everything else is just a blessing, man. But it can't be the center of your life, because ultimately, I've had the lowest moments with this car. I've had my most depressed and lowest moments in life. And you guys know this because I talk about it all the time on my Instagram. Like, there was a point I was sitting in this car and I was just so empty. Like, I'd walked so far away from God, and, I was sitting in this car, more money than I ever had. And I lost myself, and it's not worth it, man. Nothing is above God. Nothing. And I'll always, always, always preach that like, God's number one. Like, you can't put anything above him because it will destroy you. But let's move on to this down here. So I have this all kind of like just further in depth outlined for you guys. So I want to dive into this. So as far as, going back to redefining your identity and beliefs, first you must ask, you need to ask yourself, who am I really, right? And who do you want to become? That's the most important thing when you're at step one of like, okay, you want something more for your life, you want to achieve great things, but it's like, okay, you're at step zero basically. Like, where do you start? It starts by asking yourself, like, what is your vision, right? Like, who are you right now, and who do you want to become? It all starts with that vision. Every single person you look up to online who's in a position you want to be, they all started with a vision. They all started with this, like, vision they had of like where they saw their life, what they wanted to become, and all that stuff. So that's where it starts, that self evaluation. And then if we go right here, why does it matter? Well, many people, and including myself, I'm going to talk about this, many people stay stuck in that, survival, and their job, identify with their circumstances. They stay stuck in their survival jobs, and they identify with their circumstances. So here's the thing, I got complacent for a very long period of time. For the longest time, I was just like going about my, pizza driving stuff, making no money, couldn't pay my bills, just posting my social media on the side, right? And, yes, I was still trying to build something, but like, the attention I was getting and just like trying to go viral, like, that wasn't ever gonna make me money, right? I wasn't actually taking steps to build a business or make money. So I was just like in that survival. Like, I was content with where I was, with the pizza driving. Like, I basically identified that, like, okay, this is my life. I go to the gym every day, I make videos, and I just deliver pizza every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That was my life. And like, that's what became kind of like my identity. That was my circumstances. So the first leap is always going to be internal. seeing myself as like, or seeing yourself as like not just a pizza delivery driver, or seeing yourself as like not just a cashier, or seeing yourself as like not just a construction worker, whatever job you're working right now, or seeing yourself as like not just this college student, right? But like someone who is capable of much more. All the first leap is always going to be internal. You have to recognize that you are meant for so much more than this, because self-belief is everything. If you don't even like believe you can do something, or you don't even have the confidence, like it's never going to work. But it's like, okay, where does that actually stem from? The action. Because obviously you're not going to be confident in something, and obviously you're not even going to believe in yourself if you're never actually taking action towards where you want to be, right? Like if it's always just in your head and that's all it stays in, and like you never actually take the steps to get there, obviously you're going to doubt yourself. Obviously you're going to have anxiety and you're not going to think you're capable because you're not even taking steps towards it. So action, right? Reflect deeply on your limiting beliefs. You know, what are your limiting beliefs? Well, for me, it was kind of being in this position of like, you know, I had the limiting beliefs of making money, right? Because my, not my whole life, but basically all this time delivering pizza, the money for me was like, okay, 5 hours of my time is worth like 60 to 80 hours, right? That was my limiting belief of like, that's why like coaching was so crazy for me, because going from like, making 60 to $80 within 5 hours of my time compared to like landing a $450 sale my third day of coaching within a 10-minute call, it completely shattered every limiting belief I had. So it's like, reflecting deeply on your limiting beliefs. It's like, you know, those limiting beliefs were realizing that like my time was much more than, you know, 10, $15 an hour. My time was much more than making less than $1,000 a month. Um, so that's how it was for me. It was like overcoming those limiting beliefs. Like, okay, there are ways out there to make more money. There are skills that I can learn out there that are going to generate me much more money for way less of my time and actually build real wealth, right? So reflect on that, reflect on past conditioning, kind of like what I just talked about. And then your self-worth, bro. Like what do you feel you're worth? For me, I knew I'm sorry. Like I saw the people I worked with, I saw the people I was delivering pizza to. I was like, I knew I was meant for more. I was like, there's no way this is my life and this is my reality, right? Like I knew I had so much more to offer. And my self worth was simply not just being a pizza driver. I knew I was capable of so much more just from the discipline and like the foundational principles that like the gym taught me over the years, and like how stupidly consistent I was with my routine and how hard I worked. It's like, bro, I knew I was capable of building a business. It was only just a matter of time. So you have to start replacing, the I can't to I can figure this out. You may not exactly know how, and that's where faith comes in, right? Because like I didn't know exactly how things were going to unfold or like what exactly I had to do, but it took me taking those first leaps of faith, right? So like first dropping out of college, I wouldn't have been able to do that without God, because God gave me the confidence to do that. Then posting, on social media, right? Like not caring what people thought about me. Wouldn't have had that confidence without God, because I realized his validation was all I needed. And then same thing with like when I took that leap to, go and invest in my first mentor and build my business, like, you know, that was a leap of faith. It's like I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that without God, because ultimately I knew he was guiding my steps. I knew he was in control. So that's the thing. It's like taking those leaps of faith. God will redirect your steps and open doors that you are not capable of opening. But it's like if you never move, if you never take action, God's not going to move a parked car. So, number two, audit your habits, and your environment. Ask yourself, what daily actions and surroundings are keeping me broke? For me, it was the people I was hanging around. It was smoking weed. It was, going out and drinking. And you guys have seen the videos, bro. Like me getting carted in the ambulance, blacking out, and then throwing up on the toilet, just doing stupid shit that like it was just being a degenerate, bro. Like it wasn't moving my life anywhere. It wasn't progressing me. It was just making me worse and honestly making me more miserable with myself because I had nothing to show for my life. So it's like, all the things that were keeping me broke, just like settling for this pizza job every day and like settling for less than $200 a week. It's like that was my life. Like I'll be honest, for a long period of time, like until I got to the point to where it's like, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to start making money. I don't have a choice. I was very lazy. Like not like lazy in a way to like, cause like bro, like I was super disciplined with the gym. I was super consistent with my diet. I worked very hard, but like when it came to making money for the longest time, I was just lazy. Like I remember every day I used to like watch these like, you know, get rich quick schemes on YouTube, and I was like reading books and like, just trying to figure out the easiest way possible to make money. But then I finally realized like, okay, like this is not going to be easy at all. Like anything worth having takes time, and the harder something is to get, the more worth having it's going to be. So like that was my biggest misconception. Like, okay, there are no get rich quick schemes. Like this takes real work, and this isn't easy to build, and it's going to take time. And that was the biggest thing holding me back because I just wanted that comfortable, like guaranteed income of like, okay, I'll just go deliver a couple pizzas and make money, like, and that was it. So why it matters? Well, success doesn't happen by accident, right? So the way you spend your time, the people you surround yourself with, and the habits you reinforce are either fueling growth or keeping you stuck. So this is exactly what I talked about. So when we go to reflecting on this, it's like, okay, daily routines, and I'm going to show you guys like the journal entries I have and kind of walk you through my old routines that I had because bro, my routine like changed drastically. When I dropped out of college that summer, I was like so like probably the most dialed in I ever was in my whole entire life for like 3 whole months. Like every morning up 5, 6 a.m. I would journal, meditate, pray, you know, read my Bible. I had this whole morning routine with like my cardio, cold shower, go to the gym. I was on top of every meal. I would come home. I would I would read morning and night. I would journal everything. I was always on YouTube, like trying to learn a high income skill. Like I was just dialed, bro, and my whole routine changed. And like back to back summers, I didn't do anything with my friends, like literally nothing. And that's the thing. It's like I did, yeah, I missed out on a lot of memories and definitely kind of grew apart from them a little bit. But that's the thing. It's like I look back and it's like I don't regret a single thing, because it's like I'd much rather be where I'm at now than, you know, go back in time and like would have spent that time with them and made those memories, but then like be miserable with my life now, right? It's like I don't think that's a good trade-off. So, it's not to say that I still wasn't able to have good times with them and I still hang out with them now a little bit, but it's like that's the sacrifice I was willing to make. My goals were much more important to me than just the cheap fun. So that's the trade-off I made. So also how you spend your time outside of work. So that all goes into like, hey, what was I doing to maximize my time, the days of the week that I wasn't delivering pizza, right? Because I used to work like about like 4 p.m. all the way till like 9. So, what am I doing outside of all that time to actually progress my life forward? Like, what am I doing to really push my life forward and move it forward? That's what I was focused on, right? So I maximized all that with that whole routine. And then who you listen to and learn from, this is huge. So even like while I was delivering pizza, I would listen to these podcasts of like Bedros Koulian, Alex Hormozy, even like Shane Winnings. Shane Winnings is like a really, really good Christian one that like he helped a ton with getting me a lot closer to God. Um, I remember I'd even watch some of like the Alex Eubank podcast, believe it or not, actually helped me out a lot. I haven't talked about this much, but like Alex Eubanks is definitely one of those dudes I really respect a ton because just like how raw he is and like how he talks about like I really like how he talks about like the money not being everything and like the cars and all that, and he's vulnerable about it, and he puts God first, and or at least tries his best to, and we all do that. We all try our best, and I think one of the biggest things that helped me from listening to his podcast during that time was just him talking about like, his way up with the social media. Cause it was like everything I was going through in that exact moment of like me posting every day, me not getting views, me not getting recognized, like while I'm still delivering. And like I was trying to pursue this every day and just get my name out there, get recognized. And it's like, those podcasts really helped me a lot. Like him just like diving into all that. I remember one specifically with Hattie, which was like crazy. Them talking about like both of their journeys and like how much time they really put into like the content creation and like building their pages. And it's like that's when I realized like how long this would actually take. It's not easy at all. Um, and then the last one, mental energy spent on entertainment versus education. So that's the thing. I wasn't like, this was probably the one point in my life where I like officially cut off sports. Because I used to be like big into like watching like football and all that, and like I still do occasionally, or even like baseball, basketball, like stuff like. But here's the thing, like when I truly locked in on my goals and like where I wanted my life to go, I wasn't spending much time on entertainment, especially video games, because video games has been like a huge part of my life. Like growing up, like I was hooked on video games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, everything, um, 2K, and that was the biggest thing. Like when I dropped out of school and like I was like all in on this personal development, I didn't touch my PS4, never. Because that's the thing. That was just a stupid thing that would like either take away my time from working or it would like keep me up late at night and then I would get up late the next day. Like it just I didn't see it having any value in my routine and the goals I had and where I wanted to go. So I was like heavily focused on like, okay, every single, second of my day that isn't going towards like, just like when I'm not at work, right? Like any ounce of my day that I'm not at work, busy or whatever, I'm putting it all towards education because I was a sponge. I was just like constantly trying to learn as much as I possibly could from like all these different people and like that's what I was doing basically first. Like I was just like building my mindset. So like what we talked about in the first one, right? Like getting rid of like the limiting beliefs and past conditioning and self-worth. It's like when you listen to these successful people who like talk about all these things and it's like that's what you're feeding your mind, you're literally conditioning yourself to believe all these things and that's why like environment is so crucial because it's like if you're just hanging around like all these losers who like have no goals with their life, have no ambition, aren't doing anything, like, you know, are only just like, hanging around to have fun or, drink, smoke, whatever, all these vices, it's like you're naturally going to become more like them. So that's what I stepped away from and I was just so focused on like listening to these people who I wanted to be like and just reconditioning and reprogramming my mind and kind of trying to like unlearn everything I learned growing up in school. Not that I really learned anything because I didn't pay attention, but I was just like getting rid of like all the lies that like everyone in my hometown was telling me basically. So it's really crucial. And then the last, so take ownership and commit to the growth, right? So ask yourself, what excuses, am I making and what am I willing to do about it, right? So this is where you have to be like truly, truly honest with yourself, bro. Like, deep down, here's the thing, like, your subconscious knows if you're not like living congruent to the man you want to become, right? So that's the thing. It's like when I was going through this point, I mean, I was working my ass off. Like this was like, yeah, it was lonely and like, yeah, there were days where I didn't want to do it all the time, but like just the fulfillment I got from like knowing that like I was maximizing every day, I was maximizing every second, and I saw like the constant progression of like who I was and like who I was becoming that was like the most fulfilling thing to me and I started to like enjoy the process, you know? So that's the thing a lot of people like to say like that they're working hard, right? But like they're just like they know deep down that like they're not living congruent to who they want to become and it's like excuses are always going to hold you back from that. I talk with a lot of people, bro, and they either have the excuse of like you know, yeah, like I want to make money, or I want to start the business or whatever, but it's like, either their parents are holding them back, they're worried about what other people think, or they just, oh, I just don't know if it's gonna work, and like all these like excuses. It's like, bro, you're just shooting yourself in the foot before you even try. Like, how are you gonna stop yourself before you even try? Because it's like you'll never know your full potential, like if you talk yourself out of things before you even go and do it, right? That's where all the limiting beliefs are, because it's like action is going to eliminate fear every time. Every time you take action, you're gonna realize that like these things that your mind makes to seem so bad isn't actually as bad as you thought it was. So, why does this matter? Self reflection without action is useless. So you must be brutally honest about your role, in your own situation, and commit to changing it through learning, risk taking and persistence. So, here's the thing. This is where I got to, where it's like being brutally honest about your situation and like actually committing to like doing this. So, right before I started my business, I was at a point to where it's like, dude, like I had this beautiful girl in my life who I could barely afford to take out to dinner once a month. I was tired of checking my bank account every time I made a purchase. My mom, having to pay my bills while working three jobs on top of that, knowing I couldn't do anything about it. It's like that's what killed me. So it got to a point where I was brutally honest with myself, and I'm like, you're here because you haven't, like, you're not doing what you're supposed to. You're not all in. You're here because of you. And when I finally accepted the ownership and responsibility for that, I committed to the change, bro. And I as far as risk taking, I literally put myself in debt with $200 to my name. I took on a 5K loan with my first mentor, put myself in debt, and that put me in that like survival state of like, okay, if I don't make this work, I'm screwed. Like it was literally like there was this fire under me every day when I woke up, because I knew if I don't make this work, I'm screwed. Like I won't be able to pay this money. So it's like I had to force it to work. Um, so it's like setting one clear entrepreneurial goal. For me, I just wanted to build a business. I wanted to learn a high income skill. So as far as like, you got to identify 1 to 2 skills to master. For me, it was, personal branding, like building a personal brand, content creation, and then also like sales, marketing, like all that stuff obviously is like super crucial for my business. So I was like learning these skills, not only online, because here's a lot of thing you guys mess up is you guys have that analysis paralysis, right? Like before you start something, you just want to learn every single thing possible about it before you dive in, right? And that's the worst way to do something, because it's like you're not going to actually really learn until you start taking the necessary steps, until you actually start doing it and getting the experience, right? Because it's like, football, for example. You could go look up videos about how to run routes. You can go look up videos about how to catch a football, or, you know, how to get faster, or whatever it may be. But like, you're never actually going to get better at those things until you actually start practicing them every day, right? On an actual field, putting your cleats on, physically running the routes, physically catching the footballs, and, you know, putting that work in over time. It's the same thing with anything. So, start learning daily. And it's like, bro, even if you're taking small steps, like even if it's just like 30 minutes a day where you're just like actually spending 30 full minutes of your time to like make videos, learn about sales, learn about marketing, talking with potential clients, whatever it may be, like any time that you can genuinely just put towards like building the business you want, or like learning the skills necessary, like it's always going to go a long way. Um, and then you have to reflect after, and obviously ask yourself, like, what worked, what didn't, what can I improve on. This is why, like, every night, like before I went to bed, I would like journal about my whole day, journal about all these things, like what am I doing right, what's working, what's not working, what should I improve on, like what should I do different, and kind of like plan my next day accordingly. So that was all super huge to my progression. So now I'm going to kind of walk through this, and I have like pictures here that I can show you guys from when I was first starting, right? So right here, like we talked about, Um, the first leap is internal. So I realized how comfortable I'd gotten with my situation, and I knew I was capable of so much more than being a pizza driver. So, oh my gosh, this is like disgusting to look at. But right here, July 17th, 2023. I remember seeing this, and this is at 5:44 a.m. This is how you guys know I used to wake up early. This was that summer, and this is disgusting to look at because I remember watching an Alex Hormozy video, and he was like, if you want something to truly change, you have to like recognize it every day. Like you have to force yourself to see it every day, and like kind of start to program your mind of like, okay, this needs to change. So first thing I thought about was my bank account. Shit, I was broke. So every day, this is actually funny. Every day, every single morning, I would write down like my bank account balance. Like this was actually like my bank account balance, like my checking account. Um, Disgusting. I used to write it down every morning to kind of like program myself to be like, build that level of like urgency of like, okay, I need to make money. I need to change this. You can see it. It takes a huge drop off here, and then eventually we get down to $1.58 in my bank account for 3 days. I it's disgusting to see that this actually was like real, but this was my life. Like this was genuinely my life. $1.58 in my bank account. I was that broke. I think that was after like I just paid I forget what it was, whether it was like food or something, but like something was freaking dwindling my bank account. Um so I couldn't pay my bills. So it was rough. Um And then you see, I just got to a certain point where I stopped because I literally just got so discouraged. I was like, screw this, I'm so broke. Like, I just literally got so discouraged with like seeing this number go down every day. I was like, I can't do this, bro. And that was that. And then this is just a picture of me sitting outside waiting for a delivery that summer delivering pizza, just chilling there. I thought this was cool. I've never shown you guys this before. Obviously, this is the picture you saw of me walking up to the house. And then this is me one night after my shift, just kind of flexing the cash I made. This is probably like $70, maybe 60 something. I don't know. If we're lucky, 80, but this is not too much money right here, so don't be fooled. Um, and you could just see the look on my face, bro. Like I just worked 5 hours, like going door to door, and I was just like freaking miserable. Like I genuinely hated this. Um, it was horrible. And then number two, action, right? So I had to reflect deeply on my limiting beliefs, past conditioning, and self worth. So, it was time to start taking steps in the right direction. So, what did I do? Well, started posting on social media. As you can see, I mean, my views were shit. And obviously, like, I took this the other day. So this isn't like an accurate picture of like when I first started because obviously the views would be a lot lower, right? But with these videos, bro, I like at the time, I remember like when I first started posting, I would get anywhere from like 3 to 7 likes on a video, maybe like 10 if I was lucky, bro, and it was rough. I was stuck in that like 200 to 300 view range, and it was horrible. Like, just seeing like everything my friends were saying was right, and like I'd see them like send some of my videos into the group chat and like make fun of it and piss me off, bro. But like I didn't care. I was willing to continue to keep going. This was my physique in 2023 that summer. Right here, we got the bandana. I was just trying to do something a little more, I guess, different for content. I remember I was like trying to look like Rambo, and I was like making videos about that. And then this is just me like chilling on the way back from a workout, bro. And like like I was like, you know, in this, like I was pretty like, I got to a point in the grind, bro. I was like definitely like I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I saw the level I was progressing, and it's like here's what I always tell people is like it's very hard to become depressed when you're constantly improving. So it's like people who I look at who like hate their life and they're so depressed and all these things, it's like they're typically the people who like, they're not progressing. They're not doing anything with their life. It's like obviously you're going to be like depressed, you're not improving in any aspect. So it's like, I took this video because I was just like fired up after a lift. Um, but that was pretty cool. So that's that. And then we go down here. There's obviously a lot more here. So the second one, audit your habits and environment. So daily routines, like I was talking about to you guys. So going about your day aimlessly without a plan is useless, right? Um, Obviously, days start the night before. So write out the night before a quick list of needle movers to do the next day that you are actually going to push your life forward. And here's the thing, obviously at one point I had this crazy routine, but I'll be honest, after like 3 months, like I burned out. I burned out because it was so like ridiculously like intense, right? And it wasn't sustainable. And here's what I realized is like a lot of it was just like the mental masturbation. Like I was doing a lot of things that like made me feel good. It made me feel like I was progressing, and like yes, it was still helping my mindset. But as far as building a business, like a lot of it didn't, like taking a cold shower, that's not going to help me build a business obviously, or like meditating, right? So it helps with like my mindset and my well-being, but like obviously like what I've come to realize, like with the position I'm at now, like I've been able to take a step back. I don't wake up ridiculously early anymore. Like, I still do fun things now. Like I'm at a point where like I've definitely taken a step back. Like don't get me wrong, I work very hard throughout the day and I get my work done, and I work a lot throughout the week, but it's like I focus on now, like, okay, what are like the needle movers I need to do every day? Like, what are the things that are actually going to push my business forward? And then I get those things done. And then it's like, okay, outside of that, I'm going to go enjoy my life. I'm going to, do cool things because it's like, I got to a point like within my business where it's like, the whole reason we get into this is freedom, right? So it's like, biggest thing I learned is like, what good is like the money I'm making if like I don't ever actually give myself a chance to like step away and enjoy it, right? So that's been one of the biggest things I've learned is just like definitely enjoying my life more. But we can see here, like if we dive in, like Wednesday, this was August 16th, 6 a.m. wake up, pray, 30 ounces of water, money. I guess that means I was writing down my money. Think. Um, I don't I don't know what think. I think I would just sit and look at my wall and think. Yeah, I would just sit and look at my wall, I'm pretty sure, and just like think about my life and like where I wanted to be for a couple minutes. And then I would stretch, meditate, make my bed, journal, and then read for like 10 minutes. And then I would take supplements, 7 a.m. cardio, meal one with my push ups, cold shower. I was doing personal training at the time. I was like going through NASM. I never actually finished this course or got certified, to be honest, because once I realized you didn't need to be certified to start your own business, I was like, screw this. I'm not doing this. Um, Meal two, push ups, went on a walk, I guess, investments, TikTok, meal three, push ups, YouTube. I guess I was watching high income skills, TikTok, meal four, push ups. I guess I went live on TikTok. I must have never got to it. Plan next day and then bed by 9:30 pray. So like you see, I just have this like stupid, like ridiculous routine. Like a lot of these things probably aren't even necessary, right? Um, Same thing here. Like just a lot of stuff, research, just a lot of stuff, man. Um, yeah, just a lot of stuff. So it's obviously not necessary. Like you saw, like at some point, I eventually burned out with all of that. And here's what I was talking about, like the time spent outside of work, right? So this step is crucial. If you aren't prioritizing your time outside of the job, you have to, create a new life for yourself. Nothing is going to change. Um, so here's where you can see like things were really starting to turn around for me, right? So after all that consistency of posting and whatnot, um, we grew our page to 10K followers. I started in like middle of July, or I'm sorry, middle of June, or end of June, I think. I started end of June, and then this was a screenshot of, I believe, October 1st. It took me all the way until October to hit my first 10K. on here. And then this is like my physique then. Obviously, I was getting really, really into God. This is actually close to when I was reborn, November 3rd, 2023. I'll talk more about that in the next one. And then another physique picture. So things were starting to turn around and pay off. Um, and then right here, this is huge. Who you listen to and learn from. Distance yourself from any and everyone who is putting limiting beliefs in your head, pulling you down from where you're trying to go. So I was like really getting into the word, um, consistent with that every day. And then I threw this in here because this was actually what I watched. Um, November 3rd, 2023. It was a Friday night, 8:20 p.m. I'd just gotten off a pizza shift. Was like really feeling down, and I went and watched this, and that was when like I surrendered everything. I was like bawling my eyes out, like just that was like probably the first time I ever prayed to God like from my true heart. But I was like, I was just at this point in my life where it was like literally, I was starting to let I guess the status or ego get to me with like the social media. I was falling out of my routines. I was going back to old habits, and it's like I was just completely backsliding after that summer of 2023 when I was super locked in. I was just backsliding now, and this was in November, so I just like I was so miserable with where I was, and I just like fully surrendered, bro, and I was reborn. I woke up the next day, had no desire to curse or like old habits, whatever. Like I just had this like fire for God. Like I just all I wanted to do was spend time with him, and it was literally from watching this. I like once I saw everything that actually happened, I was like it like pierced my heart, and it all just like happened unintentionally. Like I didn't even know what I did until after, but it felt like the whole world was just like lifted off my shoulders, and this was the literally the most life changing night of my life. Like that was 110% the most important but also best decision I ever made in my whole life. Um, and then the podcast I was talking about, Bedros Keuilian. I'd listen to these when I was delivering pizza, and then right here you could see like all the books I was reading and my journal and all that stuff. I was just deep in the personal development, man. Um, then we go down here, the last one, obviously taking ownership and committing to the growth. Um, so I have some really, really cool pictures here that I want to show you guys. So first one, commit to the process. So despite of what others thought about me or, limiting beliefs they projected, I was willing to make it work by any means possible. So this was like, a crazy point in my life. This was when I started my business. So this was like the first day I launched, basically. I had 50K on TikTok. Um, I had about 6,400 on Instagram. This is what my account looked like when I just had launched my coaching business. And then this was actually when I tell you guys like Blake was there for it all. She was there for it all. Like she actually took this picture. This was me on a sales call, literally like no fancy setup, no desk. I had a computer that like didn't even work. Um, and I'm just chilling here in a picnic chair, bro, in my underwear, and I was taking a sales call. And this was the first night I launched my business. I got two sales and made $650, and this was the night that like completely shattered all my limiting beliefs. I was like, I can actually do this. So this was like very, very crazy to me. And then we go over here, my work and the struggle wasn't for nothing. So as I started to see my first couple sales come through, all my limiting beliefs were shattered and I was all in. So I wanted to show you guys this. Um, this was the third sale I ever made. This was that sale that I made when I was delivering pizza. Absolutely insane. This was literally the night where I was like, okay, like my life's changing. Like I'm gonna be able to quit this job. Like when I made a $450 sale while delivering a pizza, this changed everything for me. This was huge. I just made $1,000 in 3 days, and I was like, holy crap. And then this is 10.5K. This was like mid July. No, not this was the end. This was taken the end of July. So I started my business basically like the last week of June, and then I think this was like the third week of July or something. I took this. I just crossed 10.5K. It was completely insane. Like this was I already quit my job at this point. I was like all in. Once I crossed like 5K, I was literally like I was done. Like I knew that delivering pizza was just taking away my time from putting it towards the business. Um, and I threw this in here as well because this is huge. Like this was for Blake's birthday last year. Um, and this was like the first time I was actually able to like buy her something really nice. I got her this bracelet that was like engraved with like the date we started dating on it and all this stuff. Got her some really nice shoes and a couple other things, and this was like the first time I was actually able to like buy her something nice. And it's crazy. A whole year later now, this Friday, I'm taking her to Costa Rica, and I'm gonna vlog that for you guys and document it. And I'm so blessed, man. I feel so blessed, and I'm so excited. Um, so the last one here, fall in love with the process, not the destination. So I thought, this is where like everything changed. This is like a year later now, like where I'm at with my business now. And you guys see a lot of the things I talk about on my Instagram, but I truly did learn to fall in love with the process and not the destination. So I thought a certain amount of money or material was gonna make me happy. It's always like, oh, when I hit this certain amount of money, or when I buy this thing, it's like it's gonna feel so good, and life's gonna be so much better there. And then it's like you come to realize it's not. Once you get there, it's not gonna make you happy. And I was wrong, and it was what came with the money, right? Like we're doing this because we want to work a job that like we love, right? That we're passionate about, but also have the freedom to like not have to go work for someone else, not have to answer to someone else, like be able to work for yourself, make your own schedule, do what you love, and you know, have the freedom to like not have to check your bank account every time you make a purchase, and like take care of the people you love, and like build a future for your future family, and all these things, right? It's like it's what comes with the money, not the money itself, that is going to make you happy. It can buy you experiences and all that. So it was also like the man I became in the process, like seeing my personal development just over like from where I started this business to like who I am now, and just the lessons God has taught me along the way. It's incredible to see, man. And I've truly realized that like the money's not everything. There's only so much money can solve, but it's like to a certain extent when you have a certain amount, it's like it's there's only so much it can do. It can take away stress from like bills and whatnot, but it's not going to make you happy. So none of this means anything without God, and that's my ultimate message. So I just have some pictures here. Like this was me in Miami when I went to my mentor John Mark's event. Super, super cool. Um, this was just like a good week that I posted. It was a 4K day, but I crossed 11.2 thousand dollars within a week. And I threw this up there because this was actually insane to me, because this was more money that I had just made in a week than I made in a whole year delivering pizza. And that was like the biggest like just it that shattered my mind. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Me and Blake here riding to dinner, me at dinner, and then just the car. But I'm telling you guys, man, like none of this means anything without God. You guys see me talk about it all over my Instagram, and it's this stuff's not gonna make you happy, man. It's not about certain material or certain amount of money. It's like it's what comes with it, man. And ultimately, God's the only thing that's gonna truly fulfill you and make you happy. So I hope you guys got a bunch of value out of this. I definitely enjoyed sitting down and kind of walking you guys through my journey, and um, it's been great, man. I'm definitely excited for what's to come. I'm excited for what God has in store, and the more lessons I'll be able to learn, and I'll be teaching it to you guys along the way, man. I love what I do, and it's all a blessing. So I love you guys, man, and God bless. I'll see y'all in the next vid.